So we are back with the SEGA GameGear that we restored to life in the last episode. However, it has developed some issue that it doesn't want to power on. So I'm suspecting the Power Pcb here because I didn't replace the capacitors on it. First thing that we will do is now to check the voltages with our multimeter, and if they are not good, I would replace the capacitors on there as well, because it might very well be that they slightly worked and then stopped working, because I could turn it on a few times more, but now it doesn't turn on at all. So I think or hope that the problem lies somewhere here, because that should be fixable. It might also be that one of the caps that are replaced has broken off or something, because it was very tight and cramped in there, which is why we have more replacement caps here of the SMD variant. These are the ones for the power board, and the SMD ones are for the regular main board. And yeah, I will probably replace the big electrolytic ones with the small SMD ones, because it's much easier actually to put that there. And when we succeeded with that, I will give this thing a new shell, because it's all scratched up, and especially the display glass. You can replace that on its own, but the whole case looks a bit old. And I'm gonna give it a nice orange case. It's not for everyone, but it matches my telephone actually, so I thought it might be quite fun to have it like this. But first order will be opening up the SEGA GameGear and checking all the voltages while being powered off the 9-volt supply. So first thing is we will test the 5-volt supply here. The first 2 pins should be 5 volts. The next 3 pins should be ground according to the schematic of the service manual. So let's power it on. Let's put one probe pin here and one over there. And we see 4.93 volts. And on the second pin we also see 4.93 volts, which is actually not that good, because it means but this is only reference to one of the, this is 4.93, again 4.93 and 4.93. Okay, that's good. The VBAT, that's VBAT is 1.28, and the ref is 8.73 volts. Okay. Interesting. So the 5-volt supply looks to be okay. Next up, we could connect the main PCB and check if it receives the voltages in the right spots. Well, as it turns out, as usual, once I wanted to test it, it started working again. Nevertheless, I'm gonna replace all the capacitors once more, just to be on the safe side. Also on the power board, I think that's the best way to go, because I need to take out the power board anyway. It is soldered to the battery compartment, but I need the power board in the new case. So yeah, we have to take it apart and transfer it anyway. So I'm happy that it works, but I'm not trusting these caps that are on the old PCB, and I'm not happy with the big caps anyway. So what we're going to do now is pull out the main PCB, the audio PCB, and also desolder the power PCB, and then we start recapping once more. So there are a few interesting things around the Power PCB. One is this plastic shield, which is glued to the case. I actually have a replacement one here for the new case. And all that it does, it prevents anything shorting out the battery terminals, which hopefully can be seen once I rip this off. Here are the battery terminals, and this is actually what we need to desolder. So this is gonna be a little bit of fun. Maybe we can push it out from below. Not sure quite. Yeah, maybe we can just push it out. But definitely there needs to be a shield above that. Yeah, I think this goes actually out. Yeah, it comes out as a hole, which is nice. So this is the whole old back shell, and the new back shell over here. Let me just quickly fetch that. The new back shell comes with even this metal shield, which is lost on my machine. There was some corrosion here and I think the whole thing fell off. But here it's still there, of course, because it's brand new. And we have the wiring for the battery terminals and everything. That is good. And yeah, so the board can actually fit in here just like that. That's simple enough. But we will first, I think we will desolder the capacitors. But looking at this, actually, I see flux residue on here. So I'm wondering if anyone was already in here. This solder ball doesn't look very nice. I might redo that. Yeah, but I think I'll just replace them to be sure. All right, this was pretty easy, very easy going. I put on some new solder on the backside of each capacitor and then used my soldering gun. Best purchase ever, I would say. And they came out in just seconds, basically. So the caps can be tested with the MK328. Let's first do one of the new caps to see if this thing shows any useful information. Press test on the machine, battery looks good, it's testing. And we have the 820 microfarad capacitor here. And it shows up as 840 microfarad with a V-loss of 0.6% and an ESR of 0.37 ohms, which looks to be healthy, I would say. So that is fine. We can also test like the smaller one here, should do fine as well. That should be a, let's see, what is it? It's a 22 microfarad. Yeah, it's 22.97 on this meter, 1.5%, and an ESR of 1.3 ohms. So that also looks to be pretty within reason. Let us now try to take the old 22 microfarad thing. I'm not sure I can get it in here. Yeah, it seems to be stuck in there. And let's check what it says to that. Takes a while, and it says 22 microfarads, 0.8 loss, 1.1 ohms. Looks good. I think that one is fine. But to be on the safe side, we simply replace it. Let's try the next one. Also seems to be stuck. That should be the medium one. So that should be, let's see here, 100 micro or something. Yeah, it's 100 micro, 0.64 ohms. Seems to be all good. That's also fine. And now comes the big one. This is the, let's see, 820 microfarad. And I'm not sure if the leads on this are actually long enough to stick in here. Very, very slightly too short, but maybe this will work anyway. And it's jumping out, which is not good. I'm gonna try to hold it down because the leads are too short on this one. It's also seemingly within spec. It's a bit low on the capacity. So as I said, they might still be good because the power board actually provided us with reasonable voltages. However, since we already have the new ones here, I'm simply gonna install them to be on the safe side for the next decade or 2 or 3 or whatever. So let's turn on the soldering iron and put them in. They are very clearly marked, and at least on the GameGear the markings are actually correct, which can't be said about all the SEGA PCBs. Yeah. So next up will be the main PCB. I will replace all the capacitors again. We will also need to dismount the speaker by probably breaking some plastic bracket around it, which is of course a little bit destructive, but I think that's what we need to do. The advantage will be that we don't have to buy a new speaker actually, because I couldn't find one right away except for high shipping cost, so that only the speaker would be like 13 euros, and I think that's a bit too much. So I will recycle that speaker. But first, let's gonna take out the PCB and then desolder once more the nice electrolytics and replace them with the ceramic capacitors here. And yeah, then we have much more space available here. I need to be careful of this blue wire for the screen mod, although this is only for changing video modes, and actually I don't like any of the video modes that are in there with the scaling and interlace or scanline effect. I think the main video mode is just fine. So yeah, for anyone doing the mod, I think it's not strictly necessary to put the buttons in here. Yeah, but now let's take it apart, resolder all the capacitors, and then see if it still works. Alright, the recapping is complete. Let's see if it still works. And it does. I'm very happy. I'm gonna clean this with lots of isopropyl alcohol to get rid of all the flux residue, because the backside now looks pretty nasty of this PCB. The power supply still works. And the main board looks actually much nicer with all the small capacitors. I should have done that from the beginning, but that's how you learn. I didn't know that those things existed. The capacitor kits with ceramic SMD capacitors. This is much better. Okay, let's clean this and then we can start mounting it in the orange shell actually. So, board is cleaned, more or less good enough. I salvaged the loudspeaker and it's filthy, so I'm gonna very carefully wipe it down with a little Q-tip. Yeah, let's hope it survives it. I can order another one, but as I said, currently there's nothing for cheap available here from what I could see. So yeah, we better be very careful here. It's basically just a tiny plastic foil and it's already got some rust or something on there. Yeah, at some point I need to replace it, but it did sound okay still, so yeah, we're gonna transfer this to the new case. Furthermore, we get new buttons because the buttons on the old shell were also pretty worn out. So there's a lot of screws here. This goes over there. I think we will need to fix this now. For that to happen, I think I need to cut this piece here because the replacement screen is taller and I needed to cut this from the old case as well. This is not too bad because there's a lot of screws to hold this thing together. This is the only drawback, the real drawback here, that I need to do that. Also, I think there was no rubber padding around here, which is in the original screen. So I'll have to check that if there's need for that, or if I can just put it in here because it has the plastic bracket around it. So next up are the buttons. Let me try to get a bit more light over here for you. The D-pad goes in here, and then the buttons are actually coded. This is the number 2 button. This is, I think, the number 1 button. And this, with the indentation, is the start button. They go in only one way. And somewhere here I have the new silicon things. So these will go in like this, because these wear out quite a bit, obviously, because those are these carbon pads on silicone rubber. Yeah, and after many hours of use, they will get worn out. And there we go. All the PCBs are in place and the cover here for the battery terminals is back in. I think everything is fine. I hope this will close up just fine. I hope it will still work. We will see about that. I'm not sure about the D-pad here. It seemed a bit rattling around, but that might just go away. All in all, I like the looks of this. It's really, really something. Okay, I will put in the screws. Oh, look, there it snapped shut. And then we are gonna try and power it up. Okay, here goes nothing. And it works. However, I immediately notice a problem. And let's turn the music down here. On the camera it looks fine, although a bit washed out. Let's try to focus down. Now you can see this. There is clouding in the screen. And I think I know what happened. This was actually a bit, well, not well thought out by myself. I didn't remove the display before I removed the flux with the isopropyl alcohol. So I think the flux, mainly the flux, because I think the isopropyl alcohol is probably not a problem because it will go away. It will just evaporate without residue. But I think these are flux residues that have now crept into the different layers in the LCD, mainly in the backlight and in the diffuser, which spreads out the light evenly. Yeah, that's unfortunate because this is probably not repairable. It's not such a big deal. The whole thing works, and I already checked on AliExpress. You can have the exact same display here for around 15 euros or so. Only the display without the board, etc. The whole upgrade kit on AliExpress costs 50-60 euros. So this is almost the same amount as the original from RetroKai. So yeah, for me it's more convenient to order in France from the original store. They developed it, but as usual, things get cloned in China and they will resell the same thing over there for cheaper, and the quality might be different. Perhaps it definitely takes more time to deliver. It's harder to get refund or something. I mean, I broke this, so I will probably just order a replacement display of 15 euros. And yeah, that's lessons learned, basically. So if you're doing this, make sure to remove the display before you start wiping off all the flux residue. That's something I obviously had to learn the hard way. But yeah, other than that, it definitely works. Let's try if the buttons still work. So start button seems to be fine, I think, yes. After the initial logo. And yeah, seems pretty responsive. No lag, no nothing. So this is pretty neat. Second button also works. Everything is fine. And in my opinion, the whole thing looks gorgeous. It completely fits to my orange German fit-up telephone. And I actually left in the red power switch cover, which was with the original GameGear shell. I might swap that out, but at this point I like the red one actually. But I like the black and orange styling here, and it looks absolutely beautiful. It is missing the SEGA GameGear logo here, but it's actually a bit neater without any branding. I mean, there is a SEGA branding on the backside, so this whole thing probably comes off the original SEGA molds, I guess. Someone bought them and produces the cases still. Not sure about that. Yeah, but that's that. Okay, I think that's it for today. We managed to put the GameGear into a brand new shell, and I think it looks fabulous. You can pick whatever colors. Also the buttons and the front lenses come in different colors, so you can mix and match to your liking. I picked this one because I like orange, and it totally fits my old German telephone, which is pretty nice. And yeah, apart from the screw up with the LCD, which can be fixed with not too much money as an investment, but a little bit more time, I think this went pretty well. The next GameGear I would refurbish, I definitely would take the small SMD caps right away, because they are much better, much easier to handle, and SMD soldering is not that hard. If you want to check that out, I also have a how to learn SMD soldering video on my channel. I will link to that. And especially those big caps, they are not very hard at all, and it's much easier to get the shell closed afterwards. And yeah, the LCD, as I said, remove it before you clean off the flux, or use not as much flux as I did, so you don't have to clean the PCB. That should be fine as well. I will definitely play a lot with this machine now. I have a EverDrive clone for this to play my backup games, obviously, or homebrew or demo scene productions, which will also be nice, because otherwise you have to buy all the games secondhand, and that can be quite tedious or expensive at times. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this, click share button and put it on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever, to get the word out that I make some nice videos. Definitely hit the like or dislike if you thought this was boring. And you can also support me on Ko-Fi and Patreon, which supports my little projects here, that yeah, I can buy some new stuff like this. If you can't support me or don't want to support me, that's also fine. But I hope to see you in the next video, so until then, have a nice evening.